Welcome to the F3 Podcast,
where we talk food, football, and fantasy football.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the F3 Podcast. Now, you've got Week 12 highlights coming at you. Our team of the week, the New York Jets. And food picks is going to make your tailgate legendary. I'm Chef Jonathan Frazier, and I'm here with...
Erin Frazier.
That's right, my lovely wife, who's also known as...
Erin Halischuk.
That's right.
Not to be confused.
So I know we're making everything confusing here. We want to make sure everyone knows that we are married.
We are
married. Erin does go by Halischuk when she is in her media and professional career as a journalist.
Yes,
So
that's right.
But
for the sake of this podcast,
you're going to be pulling out the Fraser name.
I will absolutely be pulling out the Fraser name. I am officially EF.
Yeah.
Which is this. Oh, here's a good segue. The letter grade I would give to the New York Jets.
Oh, hello, New York Jets.
We need some sound effects for that.
This is going to be a tough podcast for the New York Jets. I've got a feeling already. Well, so we've got lots going on, and I'm going to be honest. I have been out of the loop completely this week.
I can't believe it's week 12.
I literally just got in to watch the last bit of the game with Los Angeles there, and it was not looking good for them. Not
for LA, it was great. It was, I think it was quite the blowout. But I just can't believe it's week 12. We're heading into American Thanksgiving, which is one of my favorite weeks of football because you get football Thursday. You get like 3 or 4 games on Thursday. There's a rare Friday NFL game, and there's a bunch of Sunday games and Monday games too. So for football fans, this is a very good week.
Well, let's get into that
Anytime
in a little bit.
You can watch football and do work at the same time on a random Thursday, it's a good week.
It's a good week.
I mean, work.
Well, we're going to get into this in a little bit, but let's start off by talking about, I want to hear some predictions of what you see happening over the American Thanksgiving holiday weekend. And I want you to talk a little bit about what's happening in fantasy. So who are you up against right now?
Oh, boy.
It's not looking good in your world, is it?
Speaking of F letter grades, can I give myself an F grade in fantasy this week? I had such high expectations. Honestly, I was looking at my fantasy team this morning, Sunday morning, and I was like pretty excited about myself because I was a solid second place. I had 1 game back from first place. There was 1 game separation between the rest of the group, and I was feeling obviously a little too confident and a little too cocky because, boy, I had like an 87% chance of winning going into today's games over my opponent today. Really, really confident because he had some pretty bad quarterbacks like Baker Mayfield. But, Mayfield only got, I think, 2 fantasy points this week, but still, I've got a couple of players in Monday night's game, but it is not looking good for me this week.
Not looking good, eh?
I don't know, these past 2 weeks, both in regular and obviously in fantasy football for points, I don't know if it's just me or it's just been last week for sure, I noticed was definitely kind of low-scoring games, more or less, across the spectrum. It was very much a defensive heavy week last week, and I just eked out a win. This week, I don't know, I was just looking at a lot of my fantasy players, with the exception of Matthew Stafford this week. It was 34-7 victory over Tampa Bay. He got me some pretty good fantasy points. But outside of that, it's been a pretty, even Patrick Mahomes, I don't think got 15 or 16 fantasy points this week. It's all pretty conservative in terms of points. I don't know. It's not. Last week, I think overall, I only got 120 fantasy points, and I scored the most points in our league. So that's pretty telling. So yeah, it's been some good defensive football as of late, but for fantasy points, not so good.
Well, and that's what I've been sort of noticing with a lot of the games is defense has really been cranking up.
Yeah, and there have been some pretty tight games. There's always on either side, but overall, Kansas City went into overtime today. It would have been a pretty precarious situation if they would have lost the one today. It's been some really, really tight games as of late.
And so going into this Monday, what do you think is going to be happening here? Because this is a little bit of time telling, because we usually try and get the podcast up either on Monday or Tuesday. So it may have happened, but let's just bring out that magic ball and see what's happening out there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I've got a couple of players in Monday's game. It's Carolina versus San Francisco. So I'm hoping McCaffrey's been pretty consistent in terms of fantasy football this year. He's gotten quite a few points. So maybe that'll salvage things for me this week. Only time will tell. It's been a rough couple of weeks for fantasy football, at least personally.
And so you're blaming defense. 100%. Is the real thing. Yeah.
You got to blame something. You always have to have an excuse.
It's definitely not the players or injuries or anything like that. It's just the games are
solid defensive football. Let's call it that.
Well, that sounds fair. Okay, well, let's move on a little bit and let's get into what's happening and see the NFL, because there's lots of definitely things happening around there. Maybe we can talk a little bit about the AFC playoff picture, how that's tightening up, any wild cards or any ideas of who's going to go the distance, because it seems pretty tight in that race.
It definitely does. Like, it's very, very interesting. Like, there's a lot of teams that, and I know even looking back a couple of weeks when we were making maybe some early Super Bowl predictions and we were talking about some of the possible contenders, it's amazing to watch teams, like I said, just in reference to fantasy football, but even like Kansas City, they have been maybe mediocre at best this year. Going into overtime today, just looking at their team, if they would have lost, I think that might have been the first time in the Patrick Mahomes era that they ever would have lost 4 games in a row.
Right.
Which is pretty remarkable. I mean, for a regular team, that's, to be expected. But for somebody like Mahomes in Kansas City and what they've built over the years, I think perhaps that's a pretty interesting example of your players are aging out. You can't sit back on your championship teams, even though they've been incredible, but you've always got to keep improving. And I think I've talked about this before, about how that team is really, people like Travis Kelce. He's not the player he was even 2 years ago.
Right.
He's older. He maybe should not even have played this year. There's other players like that. You just have to always keep building, because inevitably your players will be getting older. And I think, honestly, this is an interesting reflection of that. And their performance is pretty telling.
And I know all about getting older and how much harder it is to do anything. For sure.
This isn't like a Benjamin Button aging backwards situation.
Oh, it'd be so nice. Anyways, what else is going on in the league? Have we got any injuries to talk about, or how that's happening?
Yeah, there's always injuries. I mean, Aaron Rodgers was out today. There's always, I don't know quite how long he is out for. Kind of the usual. I'm just checking some of the scores here. Seattle came back from their, pretty tight loss last week to LA, but it was overall a pretty bad game. They bounced back. They won over Tennessee. Philadelphia lost to Dallas today, which was always pretty interesting. Something you wouldn't necessarily expect. Interesting to just see as we're building up closer to the playoffs, and I can't believe I'm saying that, how things will be shaking out. And I think, especially you mentioned the AFC, this might be a bit more of an interesting season. I don't think we necessarily have as clear as a first place finalist or dominant as much as we have, or at least the same ones as previous years.
So what you're saying is you're not ready to call who's going to be at the Super Bowl
Not at all. Not at all.
Even though we're starting to get close, right?
We're starting to get, oddly enough, just switching over to the other division at the NFC. I mean, I've never been a huge Rams fan. They're always a good team, and they've proven that. They had a couple of rough years the past few years. I wouldn't be surprised if they took the NFC West. I think they're probably the best team so far for there. So I'd like to keep an eye on them. I think they're a pretty good team.
Keep an eye on them, and that's one way. Yeah. Maybe put some money down on that.
No money.
not worth putting money right now. Yeah.
Too early.
If you're putting money on fandom right now, you're probably just You're just throwing money away.
No. A bunch of good times and food.
That's right. It's all about bragging rights right now, and you're lucky to get them when you can.
100%. So. Yeah. See, that's what happened with fantasy. I was a little too cocky this week, and look how this is paying out. So, no money.
Well, I think now let's get moving on a little bit, because it's time to talk about our team of the week.
Yeah. It is time to move on.
And I know how big a fan you are.
Well, I don't think it's just me. I think it's the general sentiment of the New York Jets. Probably one of the most disappointing franchises in professional sports.
Like, who are the fans of the New York Jets?
That is a good question that I am not capable of answering. It's funny, we joke, they're pretty much I don't want to say the laughing stock of the NFL, but certainly not the most popular team in the NFL, for sure. I mean, they've just been plagued by so much, by bad defensive, bad draft choices, rotating amount of coaches. I think back even the last, 10 years of coaches that they've had some pretty good coaches come through that facility. You know, Pete Carroll, Robert Saleh, they just cannot find footing. You know, they've gotten the top draft picks so many times and they just cannot capitalize. So, I mean, it's interesting. New York is a very, overall, I mean, this is kind of taking a step back and maybe a bigger picture situation, but to be a professional sports team in New York is, I mean, technically they even play in New Jersey. So, you know, it's not an easy situation. And in New York in general, the state has, you know, 3 football teams right there. It's not an easy market for sure. And they just had a spring, I don't know if you want to say bad choices, bad luck, a combination of the two. You got Aaron Rodgers and he popped his Achilles on the very first play when he first got signed by the Jets. So that's pretty telling in and of itself. You know, it's hard to say what the solution is. I think maybe better management. It's just been a dysfunctional losing team for a very, very, very long time.
They seem to be a butt of a lot of jokes.
100%. And rightfully so.
Is there any players on that team that you sort of see some spark in that maybe if they got traded they would do better? Or
no, and I think there absolutely is. Like their quarterback, I mean, they've inevitably get really top draft picks because they're losing records, right? And so that's part of it too. And it just seems like it's not even the players, and so it's just an overall situation. They don't play complementary football. They don't. It's just there's so much wrong with that organization. I mean, Justin Fields, he just got benched this week. And I always thought he had some talent. He was drafted a couple of years ago. He's bounced around a few teams here and there. I thought there's potential. I think, again, it's just the right situation. Sometimes that's all it takes is, you know, having the right quarterback with the right coach. I shake my head sometimes and go, like, how can one franchise get so much wrong for so long? And they really have. And that, it's astounding.
Now, I'm going to bring this to hockey, but is this anything like the Toronto Maple Leafs?
It could be. I mean, in terms of them not losing or not winning a championship. I mean, the Jets at least have won, I think, one Super Bowl,
right,
or one championship. But yeah, it's pretty bad. It's really bad.
But they must have some diehard fans in New York.
Of course they do. Absolutely. But who wants to go to New Jersey for a football game?
I guess that's a little bit of the challenge that goes along with that.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
We've gone on this team, and I know that was painful for you. I know that you really, really wish you could have had more for it. But
I know, the spinny wheel, thanks for nothing.
Spinny wheel just gets you every time.
That's right.
I had some fun sort of researching on this one.
So New York, I mean, this is a mecca for food, right?
Yeah, but I really went into like thinking about sort of the classic dishes, and I was thinking more of like the street food, and like, because we're talking tailgate, and that's what we're always going for in these in our podcast here, right? Like, we want to have the game day eats. Like, what are you going to have? And of course I was thinking about the New York style pizza, right? So that was one of my ideas. So I mean, like, you know, it's just that thin foldable, and like, as people say, there's like, you can only have a New York pizza.
You just kind of bend it in half and put it in your mouth.
Exactly. And there's something about, like, I know there's places that have like adjusted their water so it tastes like New York, just to get that same flavor, same taste as the pizzas being made in New York. So I think that was one that was kind of definitely on my list.
It's a good tailgate food.
I was like, it's a great tailgate food. And then I was like, pastrami on rye, right? It's a New York deli classic, right? Just that nice thick bread piled high with that pepper crusted pastrami on top of it, you know, like, how can you go wrong with that? But I was like, I kept looking, you know, looking at like street carts, and I was like, the old street cart pretzel, right? Like sitting there, nothing more authentic than that nice, maybe a little mustard, definitely something to keep you going throughout the game. And then I kind of looked at a couple other things, like I was like chicken and rice, the a la carte style, right? So just more of a modern staple, like spicy chicken heaped over rice, drowned with a white sauce and hot sauce, like sounds like a nice one, especially in the cold air, especially when you're watching a game to warm you up. I realized, what's more New York than a dirty water dog?
I don't know what that means, but it seems very, very New York.
So that is the old traditional hot dog.
Thrown in the Hudson River?
Total old hot dog, right? So it's in an amber broth, right?
What's an amber broth?
Well, that's got like onions and some juices, and like it's just basically set up there little bit of spices in there. And the hot dogs are just sitting in there for the length of time. So all that juice is building up there and something just adds to the flavor of that hot dog.
Mafia influence?
No, it's just all the seasonings and in the broth, right? So that there with like a little bit of onion sauce, so which is be like iconic, like tomatoes, sauteed onions, a little vinegar, a little sweetness, some paprika to give that red color. I think that's something that you're going to have. Just a great hot dog.
It's very New York.
Very New York. So that was sort of my game day thing, right? Yeah, I wanted to keep it nice and easy and something that, a good...
Easy. Yeah, I could like just hang out in a parking lot in New Jersey.
And you know what? There's just something about a really good hot dog. Like even when you're watching your team lose,
right? You
still got something
which
to
you will
enjoy.
If you're cheering for the Jets.
True enough. Well, let's
speaking of the spinny wheel, gotta do me better this week, right?
You want to do the spinny wheel, or we do a little highlights of what we talked about today?
Oh yeah.
So what did we learn from fantasy this week? Don't get cocky.
Don't get cocky. And next week, American Thanksgiving week, it better be a good offensive week. That's all I'm saying.
We're going to get into that. And then, of course, we're talking about what's happening in the league. What's the biggest story in the league right now?
Biggest story in the league. Well, Aaron Rodgers is injured again. That's not surprising. The man needs to retire or find a wheelchair. I'm not sure which one will come first. And yeah, it's not over till it's over. It's this league is the one thing you could always depend on is that you can never predict what will happen. So
that's right. Things are going to change up pretty quick.
Yep.
Of course, we're talking about the good old dirty water dogs with onion sauce.
You're going to say the good old dirty Jets, but that works too.
And then, of course, our New York Jets, which we hope will get something together and maybe come around and figure something out.
That would be amazing. My one New York Jets story, and just to wrap it up here, is that, the one connection I have with the Jets, which I will admit to watching a Jets game, which is a rarity, an NFL Jets game, not a Winnipeg Jets game. A few years back, speaking of Winnipeg, it's always bringing back to the CFL here, is that the former and current Winnipeg Blue Bombers backup quarterback Chris Javler did finish his NFL career as a New York Jet. Because he did, I think, a few preseason games for them way back in the day, maybe about three seasons ago. He helped the team come back from a couple in the fourth quarter, a couple of games, and ended up victorious for the New York Jets and had most of the fans cheering for him at one point, which was pretty cool to see and to watch that on TV. But anyways, he didn't make the team that year anyway. No. So that's a terrible ending to that story, but
seems like this whole episode's been going.
Right.
All right, it's time for the spinning wheel.
Spinning wheel, let's bring it out.
And
we're heading south.
Ooh, yeah,
Houston. Yeah.
Oh, this was going to be something.
I know. I like that.
Thinking something smoky.
Yeah.
A little bit of flavor. Mm-hmm. What are you thinking of the spicy teams down there?
Let's go to Texas.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been another episode of the F3 podcast. We hope you got your fix on football, fantasy, and of course, food.